Right now, there's not a cent in your account. The paycheck disappears the moment it lands. Butterflies are fluttering in your pocket after the grocery run. And something inside you keeps asking, why is wealth someone else's fate, not mine? I listened to that same voice for years. So let me say this up front. By the end of this video, you're going to look at your own life and ask, wait, is this me or not? Because today, I'm going to tell you something I learned in the market, in the stock exchange, actually trading real money. The people who go on to become wealthy looked exactly like you 5 years before it happened. Their account balances were just as small as yours. But in those small moments, nobody was watching. There were 13 things they were doing, and I'm going to walk through those 13 one by one. If we're ready, let's dive in. Number 1. You pay yourself before you feel ready. Here's how money moves for most people. The paycheck lands, the bills go out, life gets in the way. And whatever's left at the end of the month becomes savings. And usually, nothing is left. This isn't a weakness of willpower. It's a sequencing mistake. And I've seen this in the market too for years. Whoever doesn't get the order of spending right always loses. The person who's about to become wealthy flips that order. The moment money touches their hand, before they spend it, a portion automatically slides into savings or investing. They don't wait to feel ready, because ready never comes. There's a new excuse every month. A tire blows, a holiday shows up, the rent goes up. And that's exactly how you end up never saving. Only 3 in 10 Americans can cover a sudden $1,000 expense out of pocket. And that's not because people can't manage their willpower. It's because they treat savings as whatever's left over. And there's never anything left over. That's what leads to not being able to save. But once you build a system, you remove that daily decision. Because the place we really lose is that daily, I'll spend it this once, I won't do it again decision. I knew a woman who felt poor for years on a modest salary. The change wasn't a raise or an app. Every morning after payday, she set up an automatic transfer of a small amount she wouldn't really feel. The first month was a bit hard, but 2 years later, she had a serious financial cushion without ever making a conscious effort. If money still passes through your hands before it goes to your future, set up this system, because the second sign builds right on top of it. Number 2, a surprise bill doesn't scare you. It just annoys you. The moment that separates the financially weak from the person who will become wealthy is the moment something breaks. The car, the TV, the boiler. For one person, that moment is panic, irritation, and a credit card. For the other, it's mild annoyance because they've already built their cushion. In early 2026, 43% of Americans said their savings wouldn't cover a sudden $1,000 emergency. A quarter didn't even keep an emergency fund at all. The median balance of those who do have one has slipped to around $5,000, while the amount people wished they had was closer to $10,000. That gap, the gap between fear and mild annoyance, is being built quietly. I know someone who, before ever becoming wealthy, kept 3 weeks of expenses in a separate account labeled "Do Not Touch." For a long time, it felt pointless. Then one day, her transmission died. She didn't borrow, she didn't lose sleep, she just got annoyed, paid the bill, and refilled the account over the next 2 months. That behavior is the sign of someone on their way up. Number 3, you know your real number. Ask the average person what they spend a month. They shrug, they guess, and the guess is always wrong in the same direction. Too low. The gap between what people think they spend and what they actually spend is where wealth quietly leaks out behind the wall, without anyone noticing. The one thing that sets future wealthy people apart is this. They know their numbers. What comes in, what goes out. The honest gap between the two. It's not about logging every coffee. It's about refusing to be a stranger to your own money. I knew someone who spent his 20s with the feeling of, I don't know where my money goes. One evening, he sat down and added everything up and saw that food delivery and forgotten subscriptions were eating him alive every month. There wasn't one single culprit. There were a dozen small leaks. The month he started watching his account, the number started behaving itself too. Because attention changes whatever you focus on. You can't measure what you don't pay attention to, and you can't grow what you don't measure. Number 4, you moved your cash to where it grows, not to where it just sits there counting itself. This sign is invisible from the outside because it looks like you're doing nothing at all. Say 2 people each have $25,000. One is quietly earning real money on it every month. The other is being eaten by inflation without even realizing it. The average savings account interest rate in America is around 0.38%. Most big banks pay 0.01%, basically nothing. Meanwhile, ordinary government-insured high-yield savings accounts are paying close to 4% in mid-2026 as the Fed keeps rates high. On $25,000, that difference is $95 a year at an average bank versus $1,100 a year in a high-yield account. Same money, same risk, same effort. The only difference is putting up with the hassle of moving that money one weekend. I knew someone whose money sat almost untouched, earning nothing for 10 years in the big bank account his family opened for him as a kid. He thought, that's just how savings works. The afternoon he moved the money to a high-yield account, the same money started working without any extra effort on his part. People on their way to wealth are almost allergic to lazy money. Every dollar in their hands has a job, and even if it's waiting while earning a fair rate. Number 5, when you get a raise at work, do not change your lifestyle. Because this rule decides who actually becomes wealthy and who just looks wealthy. The average person spends more reflexively the moment they get a raise, a nicer car, a better place, until the new income feels just as tight as the old one. We call this lifestyle inflation, and it's why high earners can reach 50 with no real savings to show for it. The future wealthy deliberately break this cycle. When the raise comes, their lifestyle stays exactly where it was, never changes. The difference flows into savings and investing. The gap between earning and spending keeps growing, and wealth is born from that very gap. Nobody gets rich from the size of their paycheck. They get rich from the distance between what they earn and what they spend. And you control that distance far more than you control your salary. Think of 2 people I know, living in the same city, the same neighborhood. One earns well, but always feels squeezed because every raise gets spent within a few weeks on a slightly flashier life. The other earns noticeably less, deliberately lives somewhere smaller, invests regularly, and has built a real system. On paper, one looks like the success story, but in reality, the other is years ahead. And the gap grows every month. Number 6, you should aim to build the future, not just get through today. Meaning, really being able to feel what a small amount of money today will become in 20 or 30 years is a patience almost nobody is born with. The people who can feel that gladly plant a tree they'll never sit in the shade of, because the math has become real to them. Historically, the S&P 500 has returned around 10% a year on average, about 7% after inflation. And even over the last 30 years, including the dot-com crash and the 2008 crisis, the average for those who held on patiently stayed close to 10%. Putting a few $100s a month into a simple, broad index fund in your 20s and leaving it untouched for 30 or 40 years can grow your savings and income into something most people assume requires a 6-figure salary through nothing but time and stubbornness. Someone who waits 10 years and starts later, even earning much more, usually never catches up because they've already spent the one thing that can't be bought back: time. But here's the painful part. While the market returned 10% a year, the average investor only earned 2.9% over the same period because they bought on excitement and sold on feel. The market did its job perfectly. Human emotion ate up most of the reward. I knew someone who grasped this in her late 20s, invested small, regular amounts, and then did the hardest thing in investing: nothing. She just held her ground through every scary headline and every doomsday prediction. If you can think in decades instead of days, you're already thinking like the wealthy do. Number 7, you took the free money first. There's free money sitting right in front of millions of employees, and a surprising number of people walk right past it for years. The employer retirement match. When your company adds money on top of every dollar you put in, up to a certain percentage, that's part of your salary, not a bonus, but it's only yours if you reach out and take it. In a common setup, an employer adds 50 cents for every dollar you put in, up to 6% of your salary. Not taking that is turning down a guaranteed return. No stock in the world can promise a return that certain. For 2026, you can put up to $24,500 a year into a 401k, up to $7,500 into an individual retirement account. With extra catch-up room after age 50, these numbers went up again this year. The system is practically inviting you to save more. You don't have to max it out. What matters is getting the full match before you move on to anything else. I knew someone who missed this for years, thought it was too complicated to bother with. Then a coworker explained it over lunch in 2 minutes, and it turned out he'd been quietly turning down a raise the whole time. Once he saw it, he never forgot it. Number 8, you buy boring on purpose. At some point, money got tangled up with excitement. The stock everyone's talking about, the coin all over social media, the acquaintance at a party saying, "This one's different, get in now." It feels like progress, but it usually ends in a quiet loss nobody posts about on social media. The future wealthy do almost the opposite, something almost annoyingly plain. They buy low-cost, broad index funds that own a small slice of the entire market, and they keep buying every month, good times and bad. There's no exciting story to tell, just the quiet ownership of thousands of companies at once. This isn't about being smart, it's about being patient. Even one of the world's most respected investors has openly said that for most people, the smartest place to put their money is a low-cost index fund. I knew someone who chased exciting bets for 2 years, lost more than he made, then quietly switched to buying the same ordinary fund every month. And his results improved almost the moment his strategy got boring. Number 9, high-interest debt genuinely bothers you. Not all debt is the same, and the person on their way to wealth feels that difference instinctively before ever doing the math. A low-rate mortgage or a reasonable car loan is just a tool, but credit card debt above 20% is a completely different beast, and they treat it like fire. A third of Americans carry more credit card debt than they have in emergency savings, and it's even higher among young adults. Think about it. While you're paying 20% interest, your savings is barely earning anything, so the math runs backward every single month. And no amount of hard work can close that leak with your paycheck. The sign here isn't a spotless record. Almost everyone has carried debt at some point. The sign is that high-interest debt genuinely bothers you. And instead of letting it fade into background noise, you go after it with urgency. Number 10, you stay boringly consistent when the market drops. This is a sign that only shows up when things get genuinely scary, and it can't be faked. The market drops hard. The headlines sound apocalyptic. Your account shows less than what you put in. Every instinct screams, get out, go somewhere safe. The person on the way to wealth feels the exact same fear. The difference is in the reaction. They don't stop their automatic contributions. Some even see a sharp drop as a discount rather than a disaster and buy while everyone else runs for the exit. The gap between 10% and 2.9% is decided exactly in this moment. Downturns aren't a glitch in the system. They're the toll you pay for long-term returns. No deal skips that part. Every great bull run in history was built on top of terrifying drops that felt like the end of the world at the time. I knew someone who started investing just a few months before a sharp drop. His first contributions looked wiped out. It felt like a cruel welcome. But he didn't stop. He gritted his teeth and kept buying. And the shares he bought while everyone else panicked became his most valuable ones over time. Number 11. You invest in your own ability to earn. There's a ceiling on how much you can cut from your spending, but there's no ceiling on how much you can earn. People who are financially fragile spend most of their energy trimming tiny expenses, while forgetting about the one lever that changes everything, their own income. What's standing out in 2026 says the same thing clearly. People are making progress mostly by growing their income, not by scraping crumbs from an already tight budget. A skill that raises your salary, a certification that opens the door to a better job, a side effort that slowly turns into a second income. These don't just add a little on the margins. They reset the whole machine, because a bigger income pours fuel on every other habit on this list. I knew someone stuck for years in a salary that never moved. Instead of obsessing over grocery receipts in the evenings, she spent a year quietly investing in a skill that made her more valuable to employers. Then changed jobs for a meaningful raise, and suddenly the same modest saving habits started moving real money. Number 12. Make money invisible to yourself. The human brain is wired to spend and use whatever it can easily see and easily reach. The future wealthy turn that wiring to their advantage, deliberately putting distance and friction between saving and spending. So the money set aside for the future is hard to touch on a whim at 11 at night. Saving sits in a separate bank, so a bored evening browsing doesn't turn into an impulse buy. Investments sit somewhere that takes a few days and some effort to withdraw from. So that delay is enough for most urges to pass on their own. The tempting card never stays in the wallet. The transfer happens automatically before the urge even shows up. It sounds simple, but it works far better than raw willpower. Willpower is a battery that drains by evening. Friction never gets tired. Money you can't easily see is money that survives long enough to grow. And finally, number 13, the sign that ties all the others together. People who are financially stuck are always waiting to earn more, waiting to feel ready, waiting to understand everything. But that perfect starting moment is a mirage that keeps receding the closer you get. It never arrives, and the waiting itself becomes the biggest loss of all. The future wealthy start messy and a little scared. They open the account before fully understanding it. They put in that first amount that feels laughably small. Of course they make beginner mistakes, and they keep going. Because they've grasped one truth. Time is the most powerful force in money, and you can never buy back yesterday. $1 invested today has decades ahead of it to grow. $1 that waited years has already lost the one thing that made it special, and no future earnings can bring back that lost time. I knew someone who started investing young and told me how small that first amount felt, almost like a joke he was playing on himself. But it wasn't pointless at all. It was the moment the clock started, and it's that clock that does the real heavy lifting over a lifetime. Every year you delay is a year your money couldn't work for you, and nobody, for any amount of money, can sell that lost time back to you. Now think again about that broke feeling you walked into this video with. That thin balance, the paycheck that keeps disappearing, the feeling that wealth is someone else's fate. None of that reflects your real situation. The real measure is whether these 13 quiet signs are present in your life when nobody's watching. Do you pay yourself before you feel ready? Do you keep a cushion and know your real number? Is your cash sitting where it grows? Does your lifestyle stay the same when your income rises? Are you building the future instead of just getting through today? Do you take the free money first? Is your investing deliberately boring? Does high-interest debt genuinely bother you? Do you stay calm when the market drops? Are you investing in your own ability to earn? Are you hiding money from yourself? And above all, however small, have you already started? If even a few of these sound like your story, wealth isn't at your door yet, but it's already on its way. Because the signs always come first, the money follows after. And if you want to put this cycle on a lasting foundation, the most natural first step is understanding bonds. Because bonds are the calm, solid ground floor of a retirement plan. The part that teaches you how your money can work for you without keeping you up at night. And getting that foundation right from the start makes everything you build on top of it sturdier and harder to shake. So in the next video, I'll walk you through, from start to finish, how bonds actually work and why they're such a sensible starting point for the retirement journey. Because the most solid money always comes before the exciting part.